In a changing world, many challenges stand in the way of sustainable economic growth. To turn these obstacles into opportunities, the public and private sectors must work together to find solutions. Since 2018, Mkutano gatherings have been a catalyst for progress, driving action, fostering innovation, enabling connections, and shaping policy for a sustainable future. We are pleased to curate the second Agribusiness Mkutano under the theme Cultivating Resilience, Agribusiness and Climate Finance as an Anchor for Sustainable Economic Growth in Uganda. This Mkutano is the latest installment in a series of dialogues designed to catalyze key drivers of competitive industrialization in Uganda and the continent at large. The debate will host key experts from government, business, and development partners to unpack the transformative potential of climate-smart agriculture practices in unlocking a thriving and resilient future, how key agribusiness value chains in Uganda are adapting to the demand for climate-friendly and sustainable practices, and the ways to enhance livelihoods for smallholder farmers through affordable finance. A dedicated business circle where delegates collaborate, share their knowledge and experiences, and outline a series of actions to drive implementation. The Agribusiness Mkutano will also host the premiere of a business documentary film interrogating the opportunity landscape for sustainable industry across Africa and the outlook for the decade ahead. Join us, shape the future. Please welcome on stage David Bikhado Ofungi, the Mkutano Company Curator.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'd just like to start by expressing my inability to contain my pleasure in once again having Professor Mbabazi, the Chair of the National Planning Authority, with us. Your energy is infectious. I call you renewable energy yourself. Dr. Antonio Curator, it's always a pleasure to see you and partner with the FAO. There is our perennial partner, the NSSF, who's represented by the head of strategy, Alex Rumanyika Kalimogogo, Karibu. And we have a representation from the government, the PS, Ministry of Water and Environment, will be here in a few minutes, but it's just important that we got started. So to everyone in your esteemed capacities, both in-house and online, I believe we have an online presence as well, welcome again, or if it's your first time, welcome to the Mkutano. For all our blessings, ladies and gentlemen, and blessings we do have as a country, soil, the fine weather, a young population, our strategic position as a country. I was speaking to my friend Daniel about us being land-linked, not landlocked. We often forget, and I truly believe this, that in our leader, His Excellency President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, we have an agro-industrialist at the helm of our country. And that's something that we often take for granted. We have someone who gets it. And I don't think there's better competitive advantage than that. So Professor Mbabazi, when you have your next cabinet meeting, from us to him, we appreciate the direction that he's giving us, particularly in this most useful space. Now, we talk about purpose, and our purpose for the day from our title may seem to be something that's peripheral, and we are aligned with a theme that's forced its way through a fissure in the bedrock of our safe path of economic growth. But climate-smart agriculture, and you will know this more than me, even for someone like me who stays far away from farms, there's other people in the family who do that, it's an existential threat, something very consequential for a country like Uganda, for which a lot of our commerce trade is premised on the sector. Our practitioners, you in the room, policy shapers, funders, researchers are all too familiar with the statistics on our food import bill as a continent. And AGRA has been cited in many, many reports about the between 70 to 80 billion dollars that Africa spends on importing food. The amount of labor in a country such as Uganda is deriving its gainful revenue from the agriculture space. I think it's about 70%. We talk with our partners, Stanbic, Abi, about the dearth of accessible finance that is not just given to the last mile primary producers, but is at a price that makes sense to them, to be commercially viable. And right now, the challenge of technology as it applies to the sector, particularly when we need to adopt and mitigate to the threat of climate change. If I may, please permit me to remind you that each of our convenings is but a chapter in a book that hopefully can find place alongside other initiatives in government and the private sector that really move the needle of what our promise as a country can be. Preceding this gathering, ladies and gentlemen, we've had a number of chapters that we believe reflect the depth of immersion required from parties, public, private, development partners, the community, and academia. Because in order to truly sow the seeds of prosperity across matters financial, social, and environmental, it takes a village, it takes an ecosystem. Allow me, if I may, to give you a short recap of what we've been dealing with over the past few years. In 2020, at the peak of COVID, in the room right below us, we had a convening that was structured to address the challenges for investment finance for local governments. We covered the green industrial policy topic in 2021. We had a deep dive into off-grid power in our first sector-specific engagement when we tackled the energy space. Our first agribusiness Mkutano 2 years ago, and some of you were here, spoke to the framework of industry that drew inspiration from the preceding convenings. And within the past 18 months, we've also had more pragmatic interrogation of the industrial zone space. And I'll speak to that in a bit more detail. We've been engaging with the FAO, certainly with AGRA, on that value chain development that really speaks to the crux of the matter in terms of getting that throughput in. And we had, in November, a revisit of the energy sector, following the amendments to the Electricity Act, an amendment for which I'm proud to say the private sector contributions were made here in this very room at the Mkutano in 2022. This recap really speaks to an ecosystem and speaks to the breaking down of silos that our National Planning Authority chair has been speaking to over the past couple of cycles of NDP, and she'll certainly articulate how we're going to progress into the next phase. And this is really the planning that Professor Mbabazi, you're tasked with to really push the prosperity of our country. And please give a big round of applause for her patriotic contribution. You will be pleased that on the back of partner advice, we set up a multi-stakeholder technical working group. And we use that phrase a lot, but this was really technical. We're really working, and we're really a group. And what did we do? We focused really on the industrial zone development, for which the element of sustainable throughput, particularly from the agriculture sector, were identified as a key hurdle in our growth intentions. The actors in the group include Trademark Africa, the Africa Development Bank, Global Green Growth Institute, Stanbic Bank, UNCDF, the NSSF, Busitama University, the World Bank, PSFU, BROL, Gatsby Africa, and government through representation from Uganda Free Zones Authority and the Ministry of Local Government. And I hope that by the end of our proceedings today, we can incorporate the National Planning Authority into this group. So we have, by design, purposed ourselves to work on the ideas sown and relationships built in our platform, both in the plenary and over a coffee outside, or if you're parked next to each other, as we curate both our own and third-party convenings, we realize that our proverbial balance sheet is premised on the asset of knowledge. It really starts with knowledge. So this is where I stop for now, and I'd like to yield to my colleague Neil, who should be on the screen soon. She's all the way in the beef capital of the world, Botswana, but she works on our ESG strategy so that she can unpack a few elements of knowledge and bring out the meaning and symbolism of this artwork behind me. Neil, over to you.
Thank you, David. Before I proceed, can everyone hear me? Can everyone hear me? Just a nod will do. Okay, I'll proceed and assume that everything is working perfectly there in Kampala. Thank you so much, David. And with all protocols observed, esteemed delegates, it is with great honor that I speak before you today at the 2024 Agribusiness Mkutano. As David has already laid the terrain for the path that led us here, before I jump into our knowledge pillars, I would just like to add and highlight how Mkutanos have been instrumental in weaving the rich tapestry of SDGs into the fabric of these discussions and outcomes. From its inception, Mkutanos have cast a bright light on the pivotal role that economic strategies play in achieving sustainable development. And while nearly all the SDGs have been highlighted at either the economic Mkutanos, the energy and minerals Mkutanos, and now at the second Agribusiness Mkutano, it is important to acknowledge how all Mkutanos have embodied SDG 17, partnerships for the goal. The famous African proverb comes to mind: if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. This ethos has been the guiding star of Mkutanos, shaping our agendas to lay down a resilient pathway for a sustainable and inclusive future. Transitioning to our knowledge pillars, these are the bedrock upon which the Mkutano company stands. Our pursuit of knowledge generation is unyielding. As we curate these convenings, we don't just want to discuss economic trends. We want to be part of the conversation and the solutions that shape them. In disseminating knowledge, we transcend the confines of our gatherings. We leverage our digital platforms and those of our partners to amplify the impactful discussions in these convenings and create content to reach even more leaders and change makers, equipping them with actionable knowledge. And as knowledge facilitators, we amplify the voices of our partners, ensuring that vital economic development resources flow seamlessly to those who need them most. This facilitation is about building networks, fostering collaboration, and driving impactful and sustainable change. And finally, I turn to the artwork you see on the screen. It is a tradition at Mkutanos to embody these proceedings in the form of a visual art piece. This year, the piece you see was generated by AI to highlight the increasing ubiquity of generative artificial intelligence. It's hard to believe that, for the masses at least, the generative AI journey began with curious experimentation on ChatGPT about 2 years ago. And it has now evolved in just 2 years. It has now evolved to a stage where no serious institution, regardless of focus or sector, can ignore the impending impact of AI, and agriculture is no exception. So this artwork captures the essence of our theme today: cultivating resilience, agribusiness, and climate finance. It is not merely an image, but a representation of our commitment to harnessing technology in agriculture, optimizing resource management, and forecasting climate impacts with greater precision. This mosaic symbolizes hope and growth. The golden yellow pathway through the lush landscape of Uganda, embodying the progress and potential that lies within smart and sustainable agriculture. Just as the AI interweaves natural and cultural elements to produce this mosaic, we intertwine technology and tradition to cultivate resilience and sustainable economic growth. In conclusion, this Mkutano is yet another significant chapter in our ongoing narrative, one where technology, knowledge, and sustainability converge. It is now my privilege to pass the baton back to David as we continue to sow seeds for a future that is as rich and promising as the fertile lands of the Matoke capital of the world. Thank you, David.
If the trajectory continues, it's very likely that in 2 years' time I'll be replaced by a robot. You know, you never know. Probably made at Kira Motors. But look, we still have a program to go through. It's exciting. It has a usual mix of panels, a fireside, and standalone speakers. We shall premiere a short film that really captures part of our journey thus far, and we will call upon you to spread the gospel. We intend to do more of these. And I think innovation, for me, does not work without new practical ideas from the boundless imagination of our young. And on this point, we are adding a showcase of industrial designers that my colleague from the PPP committee, Dr. Kenneth Samageri, has been shepherding, so please stick around for that. You will see some displays. This is truly, truly, truly inspiring what these kids are doing. And we will double down with the end with a business circle where we convert the plenary into a panel, because there's so much knowledge, as Neo said, in the room. Our job really is to make sure that we can extract it. It is born out of discourse, and we can only achieve this through the bounty of ideas harvested or sown by your contributions. And on that note, this doesn't happen without partners. So allow me to thank Stanbic Bank, UN, CDF, the FAO, FINCA. I'm sure FINCA is represented here. ABI, the NSSF, AGRA, thank you for coming. And I think most importantly, the government of Uganda, that is really where we plug in all our ports to make sure that we row in the right direction. Happy deliberations and Godspeed. Thank you.